We wish good morning to all in Harris Hall and welcome those joining us online. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Lane County Board of County Commissioners to order. It's Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. I'd like to do a little introduction just for our dedication today for the flag to my right. 50 stars on that flag represent each of the 50 states in these United States. In addition to representing the 50 states, the 50 stars on the American flag also represent a divine goal. In 1977, the House of Representatives published a book in which it described the American flag stars being as a symbol of the heavens and the divine goal to which man has aspired from time immemorial. I had to look up that word immemorial, and that means a time that reaches beyond the reach of one's memory. So it also reminds me of the importance of every individual state being treated justly, fairly, and equitably as one, which is also a paramount responsibility of every board member here, which I've seen and experienced acted out completely to our diverse citizens in the community. So I'm honored to serve alongside of you, commissioners and vice chair colleagues. Good morning to you all. Mr. Mokryski, good morning to you too, sir. How are you?
Thank you. Good morning.
You look great as always. Are there any adjustments to our agenda?
No, not today.
Any emergency business?
I see.
Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to request, since we seem to be continuing down a road of, though we are peers, one member using the advantage of a room full of folks to make comment, that we move our Commissioner's response to public comment and remonstrance back up to the top of our agenda after public comment, so that we all have the same opportunity to say what might be on our mind when we have folks here watching. So I would request that we move what is currently item 8B to be immediately but after item 3.
I would recommend against that. Do I have head nods to affirm that? Colleagues, one?
Are we affirming?
Are we affirming to move the announcement and announcements item back up to after number 4 or leave it where it is? I'm looking for head nods to make that move. I see 2, so we'll keep it where it is. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Commissioner. In the public comments is what we'll do next. Item number 3 in our agenda. Our public can speak here in person at Harris Hall or online. Time is limited to 3 minutes. We'll ask that you please watch the clock on the screen, which is up here, and stop at the 3-minute mark so we can be fair to everyone. You can also submit public comments via our website in writing at least 24 hours ahead of our meeting to be included in the weekly meeting packet. We respect your First Amendment rights as a tool to address your government with grievances and opinions, but we also admonish you to do so in a civil manner and to be respectful in expressing yourself. And as board chair, I wish to express to our public commenters to please eliminate direct and personal attacks to particular board members in these public testimony times, as they seem to be unproductive in addressing the real and important issues to our constituents that are raising to our attention. When you come to the podium right here, please state your name for the record and your time will begin. I'm seeing our first member is not here, so I'm going to go to the second one, which is Diane Bernal, followed by Marie Latino, please.
Hi, my name is Diane Bernal. I live in the Cedar Flat neighborhood. I am here because I believe that there is an issue with eWeb billing, with the eWeb billing system. I believe I am being overcharged 250% on my current eWeb electric bill. My average bill during our cold months is $144, which reflects approximately 1,200 kilowatts of use. My current bill for the period January 29th through February 26th is $429, stating 3,700 kilowatts of use. It is not possible. I was shocked at this unbelievable bill. I called customer service at eWeb and they said my previous bill in January was an estimate, and that because I was undercharged, the difference then was added to my current bill. Remember, my average bill in our cold months is $144. My previous bill in January, which is the estimate, was a little lower than average, but I was on vacation for 28 of the 32 days of billing days, so my bill should have been lower. There was a price increase effective February 1st. eWeb customer service explained that on an average bill, that we should see our bill go up approximately $15 to $20. If I add the increase to my cold month average of $144, I would expect my bill to be about $164, not $429. You guys do the math. eWeb meter reading supervisor Jason Stewart called me. He was getting many calls from our customers in our area. He explained that they have to estimate bills due to weather, bad weather, or understaffed. But on January 25th, the day that our meters are read, eWeb was in my neighborhood reading meters. My neighbors, Ted and Vicki Hens, have eWeb on camera, and my neighbor Nancy Sampson also saw them reading meters. So how could it be an estimate when they were reading our meters? By the way, at the end of my conversation with Jason Stewart, he said, well, you've shot a hole in all of my reasons. I'll get back to you. The bottom line is eWeb doesn't have a reason why customers in our area receive bills that were doubled and tripled. eWeb doesn't know why my meter wasn't read. When eWeb decides to estimate bills, the customer loses control of their usage. So why, and by the way, why is eWeb understaffed? eWeb is trying to bill me an extra 2,500 kilowatts this billing period. That's an additional $260 on my bill, a 250%.
I'm sorry, Diane, your time is up. 3 minutes. Goes by fast.
Oh, can I just finish 15 seconds?
No, I gotta let you go, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
Just know that the whole community is buzzing right now. Okay. maybe
Thank
I'll
you.
give it to- here's the rest of
Diane Bernal, or Marie Latino, and we'll follow by Laura Shu.
Hi, I'm Marie Latino. I live in Springfield. I'm on Cedar Flat. Okay, I've got a triple bill. And I haven't even used my jacuzzi. It's not even on. I have not changed anything about my electricity in the last 5 months, other than it goes all day. But I've got an $898 bill that I didn't even bother to think about. I just went ahead and paid it. Stupid me. There are people, I got on the neighborhood website, there are people that have $1,000 bills and are on Social Security. Explain to me how they can pay that. I called now mind you, this was only a 29-day cycle. The lowest cycle we had in a year, going back a year. And I got charged more than anything in the whole last year. Okay, usually our billing cycles are 30 to 34 days. I called customer service, and I apologized to them, and I felt sorry for them. I told them, I know you don't have any answers, and they didn't. They had no answers whatsoever to help us. Why was my bill up? You were estimated. Why am I estimated? Weather, last year. They had no true answer. Well, I blame management for that. I've been in public service for 38 years. You don't let your customer service throw you out to dry. You communicate with them. You tell them what's going on so they can tell all of us what's happening. You keep your communication flow going, which eWeb did not. Many homeowners haven't paid their bills. They can't pay their bills. Silly me, I paid it. eWeb needs to deal with their customer service. They need to give out better customer service. They need to communicate with them. And this estimated billing, oh, that's a bunch of horse crap. It's like, it's a computer program. You teach it. You program it. We don't estimate over 20%, let's say. That solves that problem. It leaves it within realm. If you don't have employees, get out there. I saw the eWeb truck. He was driving along. You shouldn't be estimating bills. None of us have that kind of money right now. None of us do. We're all going to be going to the eWeb board. I want answers. They're a public agency. They need to explain to me, be accountable, and build my trust back up with them I want to know what happened. I want to know why it happened, and I want to know what they're going to do about it. Because they now have, what, over $600 of my money that they're using? For what?
Thank you very much.
Time's up.
Your time is up. Thank you. Devin, do you want to bring up Hollis, please? Be a good time.
Thank you, Chair Lovell. Commissioners, I will be reading Mr. Sjostrom's statement on his behalf. Hello, my name is Hollis Sjostrom. I love having David's chairs at Mount Pisgah. I wish that we had more chairs. There are an estimated 3.3 million wheelchair users in the United States, and from the 2020 census, about 14% of individuals in our local area are people who experience a disability. Now, not all of those are wheelchair users. I couldn't get those exact numbers, but many are. David's chair allows me to hike at Mount Pisgah. I've never been able to go hiking before, an activity that many people take for granted. Imagine wanting to go out and experience nature and not being able to because hiking trails are inaccessible to you. Now try to imagine experiencing this throughout your entire life. This is the reality for many people like me who depend on the use of a wheelchair for mobility purposes. Having access to David's chair has given me more freedom and allowed me to experience things I've never had the opportunity to do before. This includes going to the beach. I was able to go to the beach and touch the ocean for the first time in my entire life this past fall. That's crazy when you think about it, especially living so close to the coast. For a wheelchair user, life is often about the experience of having things right in front of your face, but almost always just out of reach. I feel like this is cheating to be able to go over rocks, tree limbs, and sand with no problem, but this is what David's chair does for me. Our community is lucky to have access to David's chair. It is a benefit because disabled people are now able to hike with their families and friends, to live a more enriched and fulfilling life, to share experiences with others and create memories that they would never be able to without the use of a track chair. As a member of the Wednesday Wheelers, I got to be one of the first ones on Mount Pisgah. What an experience. The Wednesday Wheelers are a group of local wheelchair users that get together each week and are actively involved in our community and advocacy for wheelchair users, such as like bringing David's chair to Mount Pisgah. Shout out to John Helmer for all the work he did on this project, and for marking trails for accessibility maps and improving our sidewalks and advocacy for safer, more accessible walkways in our community, among other things. I am thankful to be here today and to be able to share my sentiments and experiences with you all. It feels amazing to be here and to help grow access for wheelchair users in our community. Thank you all for being here today in support of a more inclusive and accessible community. Thank you.
Sorry, I just broke the rules, but I figured it was appropriate. Thank you very much, Devin. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you very much, Hollis. Appreciate that public comment. That really touched our hearts. I appreciate that very much. Now we have Gail Nagy, please, followed by Laura Shu.
Hi there. My name is Gail Nagy. I've been working with David concerning a piece of county property that has jurisdiction lines on both sides of it that has caused a lot of problems in our neighborhood. I have lived here for almost 50 years in Lane County, and I have never seen such a disgusting piece of land. They have garbage, they have old cars, they have animals that they don't even attend to. They have outside buildings that are covered with mold spores, and I am only 6 feet from their line to my patio. So I feel like that's a health hazard to my health and the whole community. And I feel that, and I'm also being harassed by people who come on this piece of property for the last 4 years. I have tried with the Springfield Police Department and the Sheriff's Department to work this out, but as I mentioned in the first, this jurisdiction line, it's a mess. And I know that David says that it's a private property, but I don't know what that means because we're all in Springfield, we're all in Lane County. And that's hard for me to understand. I know of the middle one, I will give you the addresses, 2161, 2163, and 2165, and I believe there's a 2164, Laura, Laura Street. And the one at 2161 is, when you drive by it, it's a disgrace. It's the front one. The middle one is 2163. It has, these people moved in, and I am understanding that they all own these properties. I don't know that for a fact, the people that are living in each one of these properties. But the middle one has a garden every year, a large garden of marijuana. They have cars, old cars that they park behind their house. And I don't know how they disappear, but they have in one shop, I said like these shops that are in back, they're constantly running some kind of motors in this shop. What they're doing, we do not know. But people, they are being woke up by their motors. One time it sounds like an old washing machine. Somebody says they think they're running a chop shop. I don't know. But I am an 85-year-old disabled senior. And I feel like that I have my rights as well as anybody else. And I am asking you, at the end of my speech, what would you do if I was your mother or your grandmother?
Thank you, Gail. Thank you for your comment.
And I'm going to leave, where did you say I could
Right
leave?
here on the corner of that table by that computer, Lep. Thank you very much.
Right here for you, pictures that were taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. Laura Shu, followed by Joshua Keelis.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Laura Shu. I'm here to talk to you about local access roads. These public roads, most of which are paved residential roads that look and function just like county-maintained ones, are left to homeowners to maintain simply because the county neglected to take them on decades ago. We had record attendance at our River Road Community Organization meeting on LARs, almost 100 people. They were angry to hear they're responsible for maintaining their roads, but outraged to learn that they might be liable for road conditions and alarmed that State Farm says that homeowners insurance probably wouldn't protect them because homeowners don't own the roads. Private citizens should never bear liability for public assets. Public Works told me in a call before the meeting that they absolutely will not take on these roads. In the ARCO meeting, they frightened people, stating that expensive improvements would be needed before acceptance that might encroach on private property. But you have the authority to accept these roads as they are. They should have been accepted decades ago, and requiring that they meet current standards, which almost no county roads in the area do, is an unjust burden. Public Works pointed to the Metro Plan to say that the city should take on these roads. And we did have Councilor Leach there to discuss this. But the plan is 45 years old, few roads have been annexed, and we know that it's going to take many years for the rest to be annexed, while roads degrade and repair costs skyrocket. In the meantime, Public Works isn't abdicating responsibility for their roads in the area and shouldn't abdicate responsibility for these either. They argue that they can't afford this, citing the real budget shortfall. But this is not a budget issue, it's a fairness issue. Imagine for a moment if these roads had been taken in decades ago as they should have been. The exact same budget shortfall would exist today, yet they would be maintaining all of our roads without a second thought. For 70-plus years, they've been in the privileged position of being able to use LAR homeowners' taxes on other people's roads and telling these homeowners, we don't like it either, but there's nothing we can do. No doubt Dan Hurley and his folks are good people, but they are protecting only what you have charged them with. And staff has absorbed institutional groupthink passed down through the decades. Please break through this and do the fair thing. Bring these roads in as is now, and then pass them to the city as quickly as you guys can work that out. I leave you dozens of signed petitions from
Thank you very much.
homeowners.
Your time is up. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Anything you need to leave, put it right on that table would be great. Thank you. Joshua Keelis, followed by Jacob Griffin, please.
Hi, Joshua Keelis from River Road neighborhood. Recently, one of my neighbors on Fairway Drive informed me that our home is on a local access road and that we're responsible for repairs. That's how I came to understand why roads around us receive maintenance while ours is collecting potholes. This began a small research project and kicked off a discussion among homeowners on our road in an attempt to work out a solution. I spoke with people in Lane County and in our neighborhood who knew more. By the end of a few weeks, I was thoroughly frustrated by the growing realization that without city or county intervention, we have no good options. We have no HOA or any other device to prompt folks to save for repairs. We know little to nothing about street maintenance, and some of us still don't even know that we're supposed to be responsible. There are over 20 homes located on our little block. After talking with more than half of our homeowners, it's apparent that there's almost no chance that we'll agree on a course of action. Even if we could, a number of folks can't afford to do the work. The only realistic option we have is for some of us to step forward and fill potholes each year as we watch the roads slowly crumble around us and pray for governmental intervention. At this point, Fairway Drive may be beyond the point of no return, but most of our LARs are not. This problem could be greatly diminished by proper and regular maintenance. The longer the city and county argue over who should take them on, the worse the problem gets. And more roads are going to start falling past the point of no return, where they could be prolonged by proper, less expensive maintenance. Please act now and vote to adopt all local access roads within the urban growth boundary into the county road portfolio, so at least they have a chance of being properly cared for. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Jacob Griffin, followed by Sherry Jones.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before I start speaking about what I came to, I want to say this morning you took a vote on whether or not to leave your responses to our public comment after public comment or much later in the agenda. You didn't take a vote of your audience. We've come out here at 9 o'clock to talk to you, to tell us our concerns, whether they're about roads or eWeb or sanctuary cities or any other thing, and you're now telling us that if we want to hear our commissioner's response, we must wait through several hours of a meeting. This doesn't feel like public service. This feels like obfuscation and an attempt to avoid having to respond to us. I would like to hear what my commissioner has to say about local access roads. I'd like to hear what other commissioners have to say about eWeb. But I'm not going to get an opportunity unless I spend hours here through other business, and that's not public service. I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes talking to you about young trans people in this county. To be born trans is to feel that your body does not suit what other people are telling you about yourself. We have many local instances of children as young as 18 months insisting to their parents that they were not the gender that was assigned to them. We have children as young as 5 asking to die if they cannot be the gender they feel they are. And so their caring and loving parents take them to doctors and therapists and work with them for years. because children can feel things that they are not sure about. And so we give them that opportunity. They can live as the gender they feel they are with no medical changes for years. And then just as adolescence is going to hit, just as their bodies are going to make the changes that are irrevocable, we put them on puberty blockers and give them a few more years of thought and pause to make lifetime decisions. But if their government takes that away from them, that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have a whole life in the body that you deserve is taken away. This is no different than women's reproductive rights, a parent's right to decide that any other medical procedure is due to a child. And no government should ever step in the place of a parent to tell them what is right for their child. And again, in my last 19 seconds, I'm going to point out to you how really non-public service it is that I would have to wait here for hours to hear what my commissioner might want to say in response.
Thank you. Next up is Sherry Jones, followed by Anna Lardner.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you again for allowing us to speak and share our thoughts with you today. My name is Sherry Jones. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a resident of Lane County. I wasn't going to speak today, but I've been thinking about what was said at last week's testimony, so I feel like I'd like to explain something about equity. I'm an educator, a recent retiree of the University of Oregon. I've been working with arts education for children and teachers. I've been so heartbroken for so many years about the treatment of transgender and non-binary youth. And as the parent of a transgender non-binary person, I started a summer art camp for these kids. It was a lot of education for me in how to create an equitable space for these wonderful, lovely young people, but I did it with the assistance of the LGBTQ+ community, and the camp has been appreciated by the campers and the parents for the past 7 years. During last week's public testimony, a few folks came forward to say that they felt it was unfair to offer services for folks not like them and to ignore the needs of white people like them. As an educator, it has really been bothering me that perhaps many people don't understand the core definition of equity. Part of the work I did at the UO was to talk to a lot of white folks about equity. We don't often understand that which we don't see. Equity is defined as fairness and justice in the way people are treated. It is not equality. If I wanted to feed 4 people with 1 loaf of bread, I might break the bread in half and then in half again. If I gave each of my 4 friends 1 equal piece, that would be equality. If in my effort to feed 4 people, I noticed that one of these friends was very hungry, hungrier than the others, perhaps even salivating at the smell of the bread. Perhaps they had to walk farther to meet me, or they needed to share this piece with others that I don't see. I just saw that their need was greater. I would give them a bigger piece of the bread. I would feed the need that they have as best as I can, and then feed the other 3 friends with the remaining bread. That's called equity, and it's a truly fair system. We're not robots. We are each human beings with a different identity and experience. Our transgender friends and loved ones need to be seen, recognized for their beauty, their needs, the unfairness and increased hostility that they're now experiencing. This, commissioners and concerned neighbors, is the time to bring equity into the county sanctuary statement, and remember that in our work to treat our community equally, we must also be equitable in our actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Hannah Lardner, followed by Brian Matthews.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna. My pronouns are she, her. I'm getting over a cold, so I'm sorry if my voice is a little froggy. I had a comment prepared, but I had to modify it because of Commissioner Trieger's proposal earlier today, and I really want to second what Jacob Griffin said. There are lots of constituents in this audience here who are coming with a variety of issues. There are folks here who want to know about the eWeb bill. There are folks here who want to know about LARs. There are folks here who want to be able to listen to you speak on issues of treaded chair access. Right now, you are telling those people that in order to hear those comments, they have to wait hours, either in this meeting, or they're already taking time out of their day, which I know you've thanked people before for doing, taking time out of their day to be here, or you're telling them to go through a series of YouTube channels and links to try to find the exact moment in an over 2.5-hour YouTube video where you give comments. That's not fair to the people here. The people here deserve to hear exactly what their elected representatives have to say about these critical issues. So I urge all of you to reconsider that, because it's not fair to the people who are taking time out of their days to be here. With the issue that I wanted to speak on, turning to the issue of transgender rights, there's been some commentary about how transgender rights are a special kind of rights for trans people. And I understand where this comes from, because that's where the conversation has been focused so much, is on trans rights. So it feels like it's special access for them. I want all of us to reframe this issue in our minds. Attacks on trans healthcare are attacks on all healthcare, because it represents the government telling people what they find to be objectionable, what they find to be a bad use of taxpayer money for medical expenses. All of us have loved ones who have disabilities and who have medical conditions that are expensive to treat, that the government might not want to treat, that some people in the government might find morally objectionable to treat. But that's not the government's role. The government's role is not to adjudicate the health care between a patient and their provider. The government has no place in a doctor's office. Doctors' offices are places where a patient and their provider get to decide what care makes the most sense to them. I've heard in the last few weeks that there is a question about, would we eliminate trans care if it meant keeping medical care for others in the county? And that's a false equivalency, because the truth is that by eliminating trans health care or not protecting it, you're actually not protecting all forms of health care that the government might later find to be objectionable. And that's not fair to those people who depend on the government for reimbursement for those expensive services. So I encourage you, as you draft your sanctuary and transgender protection statement, to make sure that you don't just treat transgender folks as an island or a silo. We're just the tip of the wedge against the larger press against healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Matthews, followed by Mike, having struggled reading the last name, Billavardi. There you go, thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, distinguished commissioners. It's an honor to be here. Appreciate my right to free speech. My name is Brian Matthews. I'm a long-term Oregon resident, a local business owner, and I stand in opposition to the undue requests of the transgender community, the sanctuary status issue. As elected members, commissioners, as elected public servants, you're obligated to obey the laws of the land. In the last I heard, crossing our border illegally was a crime. Now, if I lived in a foreign land, I would want to live here. I get that part. But we do have to support, for law and order, support the laws of the land. And as far as the 3B item, Robert's Rules of Orders in Chapter 3 gives the chair discretion for religious and political observance. So I think that's entirely appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Mike, followed by Chris Califf, please.
Hi, my name is Mike DeLaverne. I'm here to talk to you about an event that took place a couple months back. I hosted Shredfest. I own Lockdown Performance. I host events across the entire country. Having that gentleman that was here a little bit ago in his wheelchair and mentioning the Helmler family, I actually am good friends with them. I gave Andy Helmler his first opportunity ever to ride in a car with a pro driver. I also at DuneFest give them access to be able to get out onto the sand, to be able to host and be able to have opportunities they would never get a chance to have like general public does. There is a piece of property that you guys rent out for testing police cars. It is a giant lot. This lot would allow a company like mine to come in and host a safe environment to be able to keep the kids off the street. If you haven't paid attention on social media, there are events taking place all the time here now where burnouts are taking place everywhere, parking lots are being taken over. I feel like months ago I warned that this type of thing would probably end up happening, just like it happens all the time in Portland, and now it's making its way down here. If you guys would allow us a safe environment and place to do things and allow a company like mine to come in and professionally host events, we can make a super safe environment for people to be able to get all that out of their systems. If you're a car person, you love the sound of engines, you love the experience of being able to, play around in the car, you're gonna take it somewhere. And there is nothing in Lane County that allows anyone the opportunity to do it. And we provide a safe environment that has professionals, pros that this city's never even seen before. People would love to be able to experience, to have big names come to this city, celebrities come here to be able to bring, help the economy here. And all, it keeps kids off the streets and provides them a safe environment. Now, I want to talk about one other thing because I had no idea what all the hearts meant, to be honest. I support, across the board, everyone. I think everyone's entitled to their own rights. But when I walked in this morning, and this is just the thing about, I heard the thing about equality and being treated fairly. When I walked in this morning, I happened to be behind a gentleman, actually the previous gentleman that just spoke. I was in line and there was a gentleman behind me. One of the ladies in this room looked directly at me, and again, I had no idea what was going on. But she literally looked right at me, saw the first gentleman, saw me, and said, "We have 1, 2, maybe 3 against us." I got profiled the second I walked into this room, and I wasn't even here for this. I had no idea what was even going on. That's, to me, disgusting that something like that could take place here. And I didn't even make it into the room yet. I was literally standing in line, and I got profiled as someone against it. I support everyone, but if you want my support more, probably shouldn't profile me right off the get-go. So, appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Chris Calla, followed by Linda Lovick, please.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Chris Califf. I live in South Eugene. And I came here in support of the sanctuary. And I'm sorry, I didn't prepare a statement, so I probably won't take my whole 3 minutes. Whoever's following me, I'm probably up soon. But I did want to say, in reference to what the person just in front of me said, I was the third person. I hadn't put on my heart yet. I didn't hear that comment. But the main thing I'd like to talk about for my moment or two is how concerned I am about the division and polarization that I see in our entire society right now. I see it in how we're divided in our commission. People fall right into their party lines. And I've been active in politics in Eugene for decades. I started out with tree sits and anarchism back in the day. Pat, you might remember, I'm a friend of your son, Pat. And I've never seen a time where I feel like people actually hate each other. Like today, I see people saying Democrats when they're talking about Democrats and Republicans when they're talking about Republicans. It's getting ugly, and I just want to say that as members of Lane County, as Oregonians, people who live here, I've worked in the trades. I've been to part shops, and people who work in the part shop, they voted for Trump, but they just want to get me a part and help me solve my problem, and people in the coffee shop with blue spiky hair, they voted Democrat, but they want to make you coffee. It's not, we're not that different, and I feel like we're going to need to look around Lane County and rely on each other. We're going to have an earthquake here at some point that's going to level our entire valley, and we're going to have no one here but us. And our federal government is being taken apart with a wrecking ball right now. We don't know if we're going to have firefighting services this summer. We don't know what is going to happen in the next few years. So my main comment here is just that I want everyone in this room to know that we are the people who came down here because we care about what happens to our community, and we need to stop hating each other and just start to work together. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Linda Lovick, followed by Emily Heilbrunn.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is my first time showing up for anything like this. My name is Linda Levick. I live on Oak Drive in River Road neighborhood right here in Eugene. We are very happy in our home and imagine this to be our aging in place home. Within the last couple of months, it has come to our attention that the street we live on is known as a county local access road, inclusive of all the public use that goes along with that, which sounds benign and neutral enough, but it turns out that designation is a huge problem for those who reside there. It turns out that, shocking as it may sound, as a local access road, the homeowners are responsible for the street's maintenance and repairs. Logically, the only way for that to happen is for homeowners to form some kind of road association and divide the costs for maintenance and repairs. Well, that just isn't going to happen. Several residents are elderly, and I'm just speaking about our quarter-mile-long street. A couple of them are even homebound. Others are retired and on fixed incomes. Others in their working lives. Others have children. Our street is mixed and looks just like most other streets around. But that isn't the point. The point is fairness, or lack of fairness. My understanding is that Lane County should have folded our street and its other so-called local access roads into its jurisdiction long ago, even decades ago, like the majority of the other streets, since we pay gas taxes and vehicle registration fees to the county just like all the others. Oh, and our Oak Drive is a dead-end street starting at Horn Lane and then going north for a quarter mile. And its partner, Oak Drive, is also a dead-end street, but heads south starting from Howard Avenue. There's a short dogleg walking path between the two Oak Drives, except that the dead-end Oak Drive on the other side is not an LAR, but is maintained by either the county or the city. My message is simple. We don't get it. We don't understand. We don't accept this unfairness and the problems it will cause, such as reduced access to our homes as our road degrades, reduced property values as our road degrades, reduced access to health and well-being for our lives. We implore the County Board of Commissioners to do the right thing, to pass an ordinance incorporating the LAR's local access roads into the county road system, and thus belatedly convert the current LARs to streets in their jurisdiction, which would be then fairly considered for future maintenance or repairs just like the others. And as a follow-up, I would like to be involved as I can or receive communications from whenever or however the commissioners
Thank you. Your time.
Go forward on this.
Great. Thank you very much. Emily Heilbrunn, followed by Bill Compton.
Good morning. My name is Emily Heilbrunn. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a resident of Lane County. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And before I get to the comments I prepared, I just want to say that I agree with what previous commenters, Anna and Jacob, said. When I come here to give public comment, which I've done several times, I would really like to hear after the public comment session is over how commissioners react who want to respond, whether it's to what I said or whether it's the people concerned about LARs or EWIB bills or people who are opposed to what I'm saying. So the first time I gave public comment several weeks ago, the first time this year anyway, there was that response session afterwards, and it was very interesting and meaningful. And I didn't actually realize until today why it wasn't happening anymore. So I would ask you to return to the previous system. So the comments I prepared today focus on healthcare. I'm speaking primarily out of concern for my trans friends whose healthcare is threatened. Like everyone else who is under the care of a medical provider, people who are trans should be able to receive the healthcare they need. They should not have to be afraid, as many now are, that their treatment will be cut off. We are not asking for special rights for our trans friends and neighbors. We are asking that the actions of the federal government not interfere with their health care. I am also here today to make the point that attacks on trans health care are attacks on all health care. Trans people are the easiest first target, but even people who think they don't know anyone who is trans should be concerned about this administration's efforts to interfere with their care. What are the next steps the federal government will take? Will it be outlawing IVF treatments for those dealing with infertility? Will it be other restrictions on reproductive health care? Many hormonal treatments, estrogen and testosterone, are prescribed for cisgender people with various medical conditions. Will they have trouble accessing the medications they need? What about treatments for people with disabilities? Will they find it hard to access their health care? We already know that many undocumented immigrants in our community are afraid to leave their homes even for medical appointments. Not only does this put them at risk, it potentially puts our whole community at risk if they don't get care for something contagious or if a minor condition develops into something much worse. Thank you for asking the county administrator to bring back a draft formal protection promise for trans and immigrant folks in Lane County. We look forward to seeing it and can't overstate how important it is to have real protections in place for these most vulnerable members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Compton, followed by Mary Leone.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's great to be here this morning. I want to change it up a little bit. I'm getting older. I know I look young and act young, but my expiration date is soon approaching. And I wonder what my legacy will be. I was talking with Pat this morning about my legacy as a marketing and economics teacher. And the beauty of it is I have young people all over the world that are getting older like myself, and they're very successful. As a founder of the Cornerstone Leadership Consulting, it's exciting that I'm able to teach basic principles about leadership, primarily goal setting and working on priorities. And finally, as a standing board member of Direct Connect Humanitarian Aid, I've been able to travel to the former Soviet republics, and I would say, Dobry den, zhenjini umushini, which means good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have made a commitment to the concept of servant leadership in all of those areas of my life for an express purpose that I would serve my students, serve my clients, and the less fortunate. This summer, I'm going to visit a young Belarusian woman who started her own company and is excelling in Europe and the former Soviet republics. But I asked the question, what will your legacy be? I love the concept of legacy. What people think of you when you're gone. And I don't wish that on anyone, but it's a fact. Will you serve the will of the people as was expressed in the 2021 survey, which brought about the writing of the 2022-2024 strategic plan, which emphasized the #1 priority in Lane County, as you all know, as I'll continue to bring forth. That would be, of course, the securing of funding for public safety. And so tomorrow I will be going to the Public Safety Task Force meeting and listening carefully to their recommendations. And again, Lori, I want to thank you specifically for calling for that. And the work that they've been doing and the recommendations that they are going to be bringing forth are tremendous, looking at all facets to secure our local funding. And so it must be noted that we're #1 in the state of Oregon as a county for recycling and garbage diversion. And I love recycling. I'm a crazy guy about it. You can talk to my wife. But wouldn't it be a great legacy if we are #1 in the state of Oregon in regards to our public safety, specifically the funding of Lane County Sheriff's Office? They have a new wonderful annual report, and it says here Lane County Sheriff's Office would need to hire 75 additional patrol officers, deputies, to match similar counties in Oregon. What the people asked, what you are planning to do, is really what your legacy should be. And I thank you for allowing me to come each week and share. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Leone, followed by Ellie Lipinski.
Hello, my name is Mary Leone. I'm a resident of the city of Eugene. I live on Santa Rosa Street. It's 1 block long. It's an LAR. I purchased that home 6 years ago, not knowing that it was an LAR. I have lived in Oregon for 50-some years, and in Eugene for most of those years. And so I bought this property, not knowing that it was an LAR. It's surrounded by streets that are maintained by either the county or the city. The rest of Santa Rosa is county or city. So it's bizarre. It has curbs, it has drainage, so it's connected to the city drainage system. It doesn't make any sense that this little block-long street is up to me and my renting neighbors to maintain. And considering that there are like 5 or 7 miles of LARs in the urban growth boundary compared to the 1,400 miles of roads that the county maintains, this is a tiny little thing that you guys could decide, let's just take these into the system. This is a small percentage of stuff. Get it over with. Then move all these things into the city, urban growth boundary, whatever is decided later, take care of it all at once. But at least take these roads in, make it equitable at this point so that they're all taken care of at once. And I worked for the government for 28 years, for the library, for the post office. I believe in supporting government. I don't have any problem paying taxes. I believe in sharing costs. That's the whole point of government services. We provide for these things that we all use because we each can't pay for them ourselves. We use all these roads. I don't always drive on your street. You don't always drive on mine, but we share them. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ellie Lipinski, followed by Kevin Studer.
Hi, I'm Ellie Lipinski. I'm a county resident. My husband's also here today. We live on Park Avenue and Park Terrace. Park Terrace is a long block, one long block. It's represented to be an LAR, which we didn't know when we bought our house. We didn't know anything about LARs. Park Avenue is maintained. So when we went, and it was mentioned, it was a really huge community meeting, big turnout. People are concerned about this. Many people didn't know about this and want to know why it is that we pay taxes just like anybody else does. We're residents of the county. Our neighbors are residents of the county. And why our road is not taken care of in the same way as everybody else's. Now, we certainly understand that money is really limited these days, and there will have to always be, and there currently are, and there will continue to have to be decisions made to prioritize or say, look, we don't have time, we'll do this, and then we'll have to wait on that. We understand all that, but we feel that we should be treated just like everybody else. We should be included just like everybody else and stand in line whatever our place in line is. Our garage fronts on Park Terrace, and there are huge potholes. We have a car that we take really good care of. We try to, be careful of it. There are potholes that we have to go over in order to go in and out of our garage, and that's going to throw your car off. We go as slowly as we can. We try to take as much care of it as we can, but there's a limit to what we can do. Park Terrace is a cut-through street, so you think, well, gosh, it's just one block. But there are many, many people that go through Park Terrace in order to get to Northwest Expressway. So it takes a lot of a beating. So I guess that's basically what I want to say. We would like to be treated equally like anybody else in the county. I know the guy that's in charge of this said that their idea is that they'll wait till the city takes over the whole system. Well, come on. I mean, that's just a way of throwing the ball down the street. We're county residents, and as I said before, we should be treated like everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Studer, followed by Lauren Remington.
Hello and good morning. My name's Kevin Studer. I live on Hamilton Avenue. I'm here, one of those Lars people. Bought my house a little more than a year ago, not knowing that the dirt road was going to stay a dirt road. Okay? Starts right at my house, paved right up to my street. It's a mud pit. So I ponied up, I put in a French drain, I put a couple of $1,000 in gravel and all that stuff. You know what my real problem is? The guy at the corner of Lake and Hamilton has let his shrubbery grow to the point where it overgrows the lane, and it's less than 12 feet to get through there. It's supposed to be a 32-foot road. Okay. Between Lane County and the city of Eugene, you guys are tossing a hot potato. Okay, this guy's overgrowth is detrimental to the point where emergency vehicles couldn't get through if they really needed to. Trash trucks really don't care if they rub through that shrubbery. But the other thing is, in all this overgrowth, he has maybe a dozen vintage cars in there, and he has that in there as he's got his protected parking because of that. This is really egregious. I mean, the guy has a case for probable adverse possession. You know, you guys have let this go for decades. This is a terrible situation. Okay? I don't mind ponying up, fixing up my end of the road, but he has blocked it off, and it is a danger, I feel. You know, he's running a side business, or it's probably maybe his best business. But it's hurting the rest of us, okay? That's enough for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren Remington, followed by Amy Anza.
Can you hear me? Hi. Good morning, commissioners. I've not done this before, so please bear with me. I'm not the greatest speaker. I've been very impressed with all the others who have spoken. I wanted to talk about eWeb. I know it's old news, but it is eWeb. 26 years ago, my husband and I moved off Deerhorn, and back then my electric bill was about between 150 up to 200. Now, granted, we did do some alterations on the property, you know, added some lights and things like that. Eventually, it kept going up and up and up. When it started going up at that point in time, I made contact with whoever, I don't remember their name, it was a gentleman that was in charge of eWeb. And he said that the reason it had gone up at that time was that it was a lot of skittling around the issue. What he said was that he had basically invested the money into electricity, and I don't know if it was Enron, it was one of the deals that he had invested it incorrectly, and basically the customers had to pay the brunt. And so he didn't say it quite like that, but that was the gist. So, you know, what are you going to do? You already bought the house, you're there, and so you just suck it up and you keep paying the bills. My bill, it went up again to where my average was about $350 to $375 max in the winter. My last bill this month was $526. The month, 2 months before that, it was $589. So that's a damn big bill. It is so large that I am now going to have to sell my home. I lost my husband 6 years ago. I had planned on staying in this home. It's lovely. It's 50 acres, but I'm still able to manage it. And to have to leave because I can't pay the electric bill absolutely blows my mind. And I'm a native Oregonian and born and raised up in Portland, but I've lived here 26 years, and I've seen it just go up and up and up, and it's going to continue to go up even higher. They said, what is it, 11%? They're expecting it to go up in 25. So I guess the other thing I wanted to mention is that, I hope you can still hear me, eWeb works on something called a tiered system. on their payments. So if you have, my understanding, now I could be wrong, but my understanding is that from the first, let's say an example, the first $100, oh no, I'm going to run out of time. Well, anyway, check it out. Tiered system is very unfair. It's the only place I've ever seen it happen is here in this area.
Thank you, Lauren.
Anyway, bye.
Amy Anza, followed by Amanda Dellinger.
Good time. Of course, my phone takes this moment to naturally go off. Hello, my name is Amy Ansa. I wanted to thank you all for your commitment, first off, to the Sanctuary County for trans folks, gender diverse people, as well as our undocumented immigrant communities. And thank you for the listening sessions. I was at the one for trans folks, and it is huge. I wanted to say that attacks on trans healthcare are attacks on all healthcare. Fun fact, more non-trans folks use gender-affirming care, or receive gender-affirming care, than trans folks do. It's telling me to wake up. And by attacking our healthcare, you're attacking the healthcare of all. I wanted to talk about being profiled for a moment as well. Every time I've gone to the airport, I have been randomly selected for additional screening. It's a very, very different thing to be profiled by your government and then to be profiled by random people who are scared and powerless. I invite anyone who feels that they have been profiled by us today to talk with us and learn why we feel we have to do this. And to please, please think about how these two things are different. They are not the same. I also wanted to say that I agree with Commissioner Trieger on moving the comment period back after the commissioner comment period, back after the public comment period where it belongs. I want to be able to hear the responses of all the commissioners and not to have to find them online later. I also wanted to say that it seems especially unfair to the other commissioners, as there is one commissioner who uses the chair to get a comment in before all others. I'm a commission chair. I just got elected as chair of the LGBTQIA2S+ subcommittee of the Governor's Commission on Senior Services. I'm super proud of it, and I recognize the importance and responsibility of being the chair. It should be used with care and only to further the mission and remit of the commission and not to further my personal values and goals. I recognize that. I don't pretend even for a second that I have the voice and the reach that you all have. Your voices are stronger and louder, and thusly your neutrality and service to all of the people that you serve is even more important. I ask that you use the power of your position to bring people in, to make them feel comfortable, and not to alienate them. It's one of the best things about our country is that it is a secular country. That means we're all welcome to believe what we want to believe. That's totally fine, but government, regardless of what Robert's Rules of Orders may say, the job of government is to protect everyone and to help everyone and to bring everyone together for the common good. But yeah, I wanted to thank you all for your time. Once again, thank you for the listening sessions. They're huge. I can't wait to see where that all goes. I can't wait to see your commitment to Sanctuary County being fulfilled. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you.
Amanda Dillinger, and then we'll follow with the online.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Amanda Dellinger. My pronouns are they, them. And I'm here to address you this morning about healthcare. My mother had long COVID and breast cancer diagnosis and then fell and broke her pelvis. Yet nobody would ever think about taking healthcare away from somebody in dire need of it. And I myself have multiple sclerosis, and every 6 months I have to take a medication that's $45,000 with insurance. So I can only imagine what it would be without that. And so I just want to reiterate that the trans and gender diverse community isn't asking for special treatment, only that healthcare applies to everyone. And I just want to drive that part home. thank you for serving the county and including all people that live in our county. That's all for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Jessica, that concludes all the ones that are signed up in Harris Hall. Is there anyone online that would like to give public comment at this time?
Thank you, Chair. For members of the public joining us virtually, if you would like to give public comment, please raise your virtual hand. I see 2 hands raised. Peter Shabarek, would you like to be on camera for your testimony?
Yes, I would.
All right, please give me 1 moment. This takes a little bit of time on my end to set up. Okay, I'm promoting you to a panelist in our Zoom meeting. And then if you could please unmute your camera. We do see you and we can hear you, so you are able to give your public comment when you're ready.
Okay, very good. Hi, my name is Peter Shabarek. I live in Santa Clara. I'm in the West Lane district of Lane County. I want to address the veterans issues. I was honored to be part of the veterans protest in front of the Veterans Hospital on Chad Drive a week ago Monday. As you probably know, the Trump administration is proposing extreme cuts to the Veterans Administration to the order of 80,000 employees to be cut by June. Almost 20% of the national workforce. This will affect us veterans in Lane County in ridiculous ways. Already people are waiting 3 to 6 months to see a doctor or a specialist or a physical therapist. And it's going to get worse if you cut close to 20% of the employees. One of the most cynical things that the Trump administration did as soon as they came into office was they cut 500 VA employees who were specialists in suicide prevention. I mean, how much more cynical can you be than to say to these people who gave several years of their lives, were willing to risk their life for their country, and because of the way they were treated or the drugs or the chemicals they were exposed to or the battles they were exposed to, became suicidal, living on the streets, and the government says, no, we're not gonna bother with you anymore. Okay, so I was pleased to see a lot of veterans at the protest in front of the hospital, and we got some local TV coverage that was picked up by national coverage on MSNBC. I was glad to see that. What I am urging the commissioners to do, in fact, insisting, demanding, is that you send a letter as commissioners, an official letter to the Trump administration, urging them to not make these cuts, to support the veterans. And if you want to avoid an uprising in this county, you'd better support the veterans. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Just one moment. Next to speak will be Joe Tyndall. Joe, would you like to be on camera?
No, not necessary. Thank you.
Very well. You are ready to begin your public comment.
Okay, Joe Tyndall. Responses to comments being moved on your agenda is likely a good idea to keep one commissioner from spewing another man-hating tirade like she did on February 11th. It appears I have been asked not to criticize commissioners. Unfortunately, ideology impacts county policy and people's lives. So, reality check. Following DOJ uncovering massive misappropriation, many managers at ActBlue the Democrat fundraising bundler, have resigned. Some have fled the country. Federal dollars were laundered through ActBlue into Democrat campaigns. These fraudsters listed this money on FEC reports as having come from working class folks, supposedly making hundreds of donations that often totaled 6 or 7 figures. Can you smell the corruption? The reforms and revelations just keep coming. On October 24, 2020, Joe Biden bragged, quote, "We have put together the most extensive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics." This appears to be true. Election fraud is finally under investigation. Indictments are likely, so you might want to clean the county voter rolls to discover fraudulent ballots. Maybe there were none, but we do not know. FBI agents who targeted political opponents are being fired, and the remainder are being reassigned to field offices to combat increasing Antifa crimes, including assaults, arson, and vandalism. The FBI is now tracking where the money donated to Black Lives Matter went. Answer: into the grifting woke organizers' pockets. They are also hunting down activists who provoke police to swat people for their politics, a common woke terror tactic. Now that eggs and gas prices are falling, we have Pengate. Over 90% of Biden's signatures were by machine. So who was running Biden's presidency? Does Biden actually know who he pardoned? This week also served up a Karen falsely accusing a football star of domestic violence to punish him and take his money. This is one of thousands of similar cases every week where dishonest, vindictive females sick the system on men. #MeToo remains alive and thriving. This millionaire athlete had the resources to defend himself and to prove his accuser was lying. Sadly, for the rest of us less affluent, likely innocent schlubs, the system still #believes all women. Will this despicable lying Karen be prosecuted? To whom it may concern, either fact check your hateful, harm-causing ideology or resign. Thank you.
Chair, this concludes our virtual public comment.
All right, we thank you very much, Jessica, for the help. Thank you all who came to do public comment. We certainly appreciate your words, and we heard them, and we thank you again. Next item on our order of business is our consent calendar. All items listed here are routine by the Board of County Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items, and if discussion is desired, that item would have been removed from the consent calendar and would be considered separately. Details to each item can be found in the blue links attached to the item descriptions. And just, I'm asking you to be a little quiet if you're going to leave the building there. Thank you very much. I'm looking for a motion on the consent calendar, Vice Chair.
Yes, Chair, I move to approve the consent calendar for March 18th, 2025.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Passes 5-0. Our next item on our agenda is the Human Health Service item, order number 25031803. And Kate Budd has been patiently waiting to give us her presentation. Welcome, Kate. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Thank you. Just simply here in case you have any questions regarding the memo in front of you and the approval to accept the Continuum of Care grants. We are expecting grants from HUD at the federal level. I will offer that we received our first last Thursday, only to have it rescinded by Friday morning. And so we don't quite know what the future holds, but this memo, with your approval, would allow us to move forward with our process if you were to approve it.
And by that awkward pause, I consider that you're probably done with that statement.
Yes.
Thank you, Kate. One quick question. When I read the packet, I did notice there was an item in there with the St. Vincent de Paul connection. So I had in my notes, Commissioner Buck, did you want to make a statement or anything at this time?
Thank you very much, Chair. Since this item potentially has funding for St. Vincent de Paul, I need to declare conflict of interest. I'm related to the Executive Director Emeritus, who is still employed by the agency, and any financial transaction is a conflict. So I will recuse myself, go out to the hallway. Somebody could let me know when you're all done.
All right, good. Thank you so much. Is there any questions or comments for Ms. Budd? Yes, Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if this is really for Ms. Budd appropriately. I see our policy directors in the room, of course, our county administrator and our legal counsel. So I think I'm really more bringing this up, one, just to register my great concern about the future of our ability to actually operate and deliver services as a county under this current federal administration. This is not the first, and it's not the smallest at, what is it, $6 million grant that's been frozen that we've been promised. This is not pending approval. These are approved funds that this current administration is refusing to disperse per the promises that they've made, so, or that have been made. So I'm greatly concerned, and I am fully in support of us approving the order so that should the funds become available, we're ready to make use of them. I think it would be helpful to hear a little bit more about what the impacts of these funds not coming to Lane County as they were promised could look like.
In short, it would very much lead to folks who are in stable housing today, who had moved from an unhoused situation or living in emergency shelter into permanent housing, having to move out due to rent and tenancy supports not being available. And so it certainly would be a worst case scenario.
And if I may, have we been given any indication of when we might have any clarity from HUD on these funds?
Not at this point.
And so do we have subcontractors that are awaiting these dollars? I mean, we're sort of passing these dollars through. They're not directly county operating dollars exclusively. So what will happen to these organizations that are relying on these funds? They don't have an alternate source that they can spend in the meantime while we wait for whatever random decisions based on nothing are being made at the federal level. Do you have any sense of where folks are in delivering services?
So at this point, we just have one contract that is late in being approved. However, if there continues to be no movement at the HUD level, then we would have more and more agencies who wouldn't be able to bill for the costs that they're accruing, and then those very difficult decisions would have to come. We're fortunate in that there are multiple funding sources that are woven together to support these programs. However, those HUD funds are incredibly important in sustaining the programs for the long term.
Thank you. And were we asked to provide any information to help support the release of these approved funds, or was it just they're frozen with zero communication otherwise?
We haven't been asked for additional information at this point.
Right. Well, I'm, as I said, Chair, fully supportive of the order, but deeply concerned about both it on its face and also what it signals, and might be asking later today for a bit of a report back. I know the administrators convened a group that's been monitoring federal policy as it may be impacting county operations, but I think we're there. So I think we could use a little bit of an update on that. So thank you, and I'm really sorry. I know this is really hard on you and your team and the organizations we work with to house folks, so thank you very much.
Great. Commissioner Farr, please.
Thanks, Chair. You know, I've got 1,000 questions for you, Kate, but I'm fortunate that you answer the phone every time I call. If not, you call me back within moments, and I appreciate that because it is a dynamic situation. We heard on Thursday at Poverty and Homelessness Board the way things were, and then Friday morning it changed. It may have changed since you sat down there. You know, so I think burdening you with questions and to speculate on what it might look like, it's unfair to you. But what we do know is this, that people who are being served will not be served. And that should render us all upset. You know, as a dynamic situation emerges, you know, just be in touch. Let those of us who are keeping attention on the policy elements that we can affect, let us know what's happening, Kate, which you do. And once again, I thank you. You are the truly outstanding public official that I know, and I rely on you for a lot of information. Thank you for giving me that on an ongoing basis. This is a report. This is we're giving you authorization today for something we don't really know what it's going to look like even maybe 20 minutes from now. So that's the most important thing, is that we keep abreast of the dynamic changes and determine who are the most vulnerable people who are going to lose services, and how do we effectively, as a county, as a governmental agency, minimize the loss that's been filtered down through from the federal government. So with that, no speculative questions, and I'm ready to make a motion whenever you're ready, Chair.
Good. Please continue. Go ahead, Commissioner Furr.
Then I would move Order 2503-1803 in the matter of accepting U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Continuum of Care grants and delegating authority to the county administrator, their designee, or their subdelegate to sign the approved actions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair. It's been moved by Commissioner Farr and seconded by the Vice Chair in the matter accepting U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD Continuum Care Grants, and delegating authority to the county administrator or the designee to sign the grant documents per Order 2503-1803. Do any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It passed 4-0 with Commissioner Buck excused and recused. If someone could signal her to come back into the room, please, that would be awesome. There she is. Our next item on the agenda is item 6B from County Administration, the matter of accepting block grants, and our designee presenter is none other than Matt McRae, our Holiday Farm Fire Consultant Extraordinaire. Matt, how you doing today?
Morning, Chair. Thank you. And Commissioners, forgive me, give me just a moment to see if I can I have a few slides to present, and so I'll see if I can get them to show up here.
No worries. Let me just introduce this item while you're doing that, Matt. This is the matter accepting an agreement from the Oregon Housing and Community Services in the amount of $17,483,497 for affordable housing development for the Holiday Farm Fire Recovery, and delegating authority to the county administrator to execute the agreement. You kind of teed this up a few weeks ago, and this is the follow-up, I presume.
That's correct.
Good deal.
Get it. Thank you, Chair, and forgive my my delay here. I'm going to just jump right in while the administrator works on getting me slides.
The IT man / county administrator works his magic.
Other duties as assigned.
Yes, you're correct, Chair. Thank you. I queued these two grants up a few weeks ago during our quarterly update, so this isn't new to you, but these two grants are now at the ready for us to prepare to use, and of course it needs your authorization to use these funds. Thank you. I think that's good enough. If that works well enough for you, I'm not. This is so. Gosh. Okay.
It's like the old film strip days in grade school. It's
for real. Yeah. So there are two different grants here. They are both community development block grant funds for disaster recovery coming from HUD through Oregon Housing and Community Services to Lane County. One of the here comes the real tech advisor here.
We're in the nick of time.
One of the programs is for affordable housing development. So this is nearly $17.5 million that would be used to provide housing for renters who were displaced by the Holiday Farm Fire. I will note that these are CDBG funds that do not have a local match, so there's no obligation on behalf of Lane County. And there is certainly a fair amount of work required with both of these grants. And there is funding provided to Lane County to provide the staffing and capacity to administer these funds. The second grant is for planning, infrastructure, and economic revitalization programs. We've talked about these projects. I'm happy to dive into them if there are questions about these particular projects, but this is the list of projects that have been queued up by a local selection committee. And as on the bottom there, you can see funds set aside for Lane County staff and additional capacity to administer these projects and the funds. This totals nearly $7.5 million for all these projects. So there's not really a lot more unless you have questions. I just want to queue up these two. I'll make two more points as we've talked about the uncertainties surrounding federal funds. In our conversations with Oregon Housing and Community Services, we asked for two things in our contracts for these particular funds. One is, while these funds are normally on a reimbursement basis, we've asked for cash advances or capital advances so that to the extent that there are significant funds being put out in circulation, they're not Lane County funds. We can ask for an advance to pay for large expenses so that we don't have several $100,000 of county funds at risk. We've also asked for a guarantee that we can get reimbursed should the program end for any reason. We just ask that any reasonable expenses that are approvable through the grant will be reimbursed by OHCS should the program end. So it gives us some confidence that we are at least not going to be putting county dollars and county budget at risk. Doesn't address the questions about who would not be served, but just addresses the county risk. Those are the comments I have. So any questions from you, Chair or Commissioners?
To the board, Mr. Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any questions since I've been involved in this, but just a few comments. We've been waiting for this moment for a very, very long time. Hope to get this money much earlier after recovery than today. And even though we're approving it today, it doesn't mean OHCS has the money from HUD yet. And they will not get like a full check, and it won't be in the bank account at HUD. What's happening is, as we allocate these projects to community-based organizations, they submit that to us, we submit that to OHCS, OHCS has to submit that to HUD for the money to flow up and down to projects and recovery on the ground. And right now, with the new administration, reevaluating budgets at HUD, I am very concerned that this funding may not reach people and be further delayed. So it's not only looking out for Lane County's risk, it's also looking out for those community organizations who are implementing the work on the ground and not letting them hang with money and funding that they're putting out for recovery purposes that we know were duly authorized and granted with signed contracts, and they can't get reimbursed ultimately. This is a risk for them, as well as a risk for the county. So it's really important that we stay on top of what the new administration is doing when it comes to HUD in general, but also for the disaster recovery portion of HUD. So I want to make it perfectly clear that people in the affected area don't necessarily think that there is millions of dollars hanging out in a bank account at Oregon Housing and Community Services, because that's not the way that it's going to operate. We are at the whim of the new administration ensuring that those monies are released to the grantees, such as OHCS and ultimately down to our community organizations.
Well, thank you for that reality check, as dismal as it is. The word of the day is tend to be concern and hope. Is any other comments or questions for Mr. McRae from the board? Yes, Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and maybe I missed it. What was OHCS's response to the request for ensuring a reimbursement guarantee and a request for capital or cash advances, again, assuming they get the money. I assume they can't make that promise until they see the money.
Correct. Thank you for the question, Commissioner Trigger. Yeah, their response, they were willing to provide those guarantees, so to provide us the opportunity to do cash advances on these grants and guarantee that they will pay out any funding that is in circulation. So I would not have brought these grants to you for your approval had they not been able to provide that kind of guarantee.
But I assume they're providing that guarantee is contingent upon them receiving.
So my understanding, Commissioner Trigger, is that should we have, for example, a large expense with a peer project, we would seek a cash advance, they would seek a cash advance, and then once we had that advance, then we would pay for that large expense, so that neither us nor our contractors or community partners will be out of funds.
But all roads still lead to HUD actually releasing the funds.
That's accurate. I do understand. I did get word last week from our partners at OHCS that funds for the planning, infrastructure, and economic revitalization projects were indeed moving. So the last request for reimbursement was granted. But yes, certainly there's a fair amount of uncertainty remaining.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else? If not, I'll be looking for a motion. Commissioner Buck, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move approval of Order 25-03-18-04 in the matter of accepting an agreement from the Oregon Housing and Community Services in the amount of $17,483,497 for affordable housing development for the Holiday Farm Fire recovery and delegating authority to the county administrator to execute the agreement.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice Chair. It's been moved by Commissioner Buck and seconded by the Vice Chair to accept order number 25031804 in the matter of the community development block grants. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. And Mr. McCray, you have the next item on the agenda, 6B, order 25031805, in accepting development block grant discovery funds for a different amount and for infrastructure in the peer process. So go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, hope it's all right. I combined both of the presentations into one, so that was the second item that you heard about.
Efficiency.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions for Mr. McCray? If not, I'll look for a motion. Yes, Commissioner Buck, go ahead.
I'll move approval of Order 25-03-18-05 in the matter of accepting the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funds from Oregon Housing and Community Services in the amount of up to $7,926,980 for planning, infrastructure, and economic revitalization, also known as PEER, for the Holiday Farm Fire recovery and delegating authority to the county administrator to execute the agreement.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Buck and seconded by Vice Chair to accept the community development block grants per order 25031805. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Mr. McCray, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your perseverance there. And Mr. Adams, anything I want to add before we go?
On this item.
Oh, not on this item. He's next. Okay, he's going to stick around. Sounds good. All right, moving on to item 6C, our announcements. Before we go into executive session, we need to be in executive session by 10:45. So pace yourselves accordingly, gentlemen. Go ahead.
Okay. I think we can do it. A few announcements for you. Wanted to let you know a few sort of responses or information to share with you from folks who spoke at public comment this morning. We did last week have a meeting with representatives from the immigrant and refugee community. I believe that happened on Monday evening, and then on Thursday evening we had a meeting with representatives from the trans community. So those conversations with those groups happened last week. We are working to schedule a follow-up meeting, particularly with representatives from the trans community in the coming week or so. We are planning to bring the board back a discussion, a draft communication on April 8th. That's our goal, pending the outcome of those conversations. I think, as was represented here, generally a good discussion and talking about what what is the role of the county, what can the county do, what do we have authority and responsibility for, and how can we work to continue to support both of those communities. So that's ongoing, and watch for April 8th as the date for that follow-up discussion. Also want to share with the board, we have, I believe we have a work session scheduled. I don't have the date as of yet on local access roads. He had some public comment this morning. I was checking on the date. I'm not sure when that is, but we will have a work session with the board coming up on that topic. So I just wanted to share that with you. You'll have greater ability to discuss with our public works staff and county council staff on those issues. And then there was some comment about the Public Safety Funding Task Force. We do have a 4-hour session scheduled tomorrow afternoon from 12:30 to 4:30, and then another 4-hour session scheduled next Monday, March 24th from noon to 4, and then a hold on a date later in April. So we're hoping that we can wrap up that work in the next couple of meetings. There is a fair amount of work to do, but we do have meetings again scheduled tomorrow and Monday for the task force to hopefully finalize its work. I think that's everything I had, and then you were going to talk about federal transition and sort of issues that are up in the air there that we're tracking.
So thank you, County Administrator, Chair, Commissioners. So this morning I wanted to update you on the EPA grant for resilience hubs to indicate, of course, there's coverage this morning on KLCC indicating that covering the guidance that we provided to our subgrantees last week. We are under review at the federal level. We do not know what the status of that already approved grant and executed grant instrument is at this time, and we communicated to our subgrantees that we did not want them to make large financial decisions until such time as we had greater clarity. So we have communicated that. The staff continue to work at the kind of planning stage, the planning level of in engagement with every hope that this already executed grant will be able to move through. This is $19.5 million for 6 resilience communities, resilience hubs across Lane County. Very much appreciate the chair and the vice chair's advocacy on this particular grant with EPA, and I think we're going to have to continue to press the case based on nationwide coverage specifically. So that is the update on that particular grant. We continue to monitor executive orders. We're watching the kind of thicket of litigation as well, really working in concert with county council to really understand specifically the impact of the transition on county operations on a regular basis. So we continue to meet twice weekly to understand what that looks like on our operations. So we will continue to brief you and keep you updated on what we're seeing at the programmatic level, as we did with Ms. Budd just a moment ago, as well as kind of more globally. So that is the update on that item. I also wanted to bring a related legislative item, Chair, but maybe I'll pause just in case we wanted to.
Please be mindful of time. We have to be in an executive session.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see a time certain on the agenda, so I wasn't aware we were on a time frame. I'll just, for the record, ask a similar question. These are funds that were approved by the 118th Congress, but this current administration has put a freeze on, is the language we're using. Have we been given any indication of what they're looking for to assess their ability and timeline to make good on the commitment of these funds? Have we been asked to provide any information? Have we been given any sense of a timeline that we can expect to understand the fate of this work?
Chair Lovell, Commissioner, at this point, we have not received official communications in any respect, timelines specifically, so we are awaiting word. We've asked, we've elevated, and the staff have acknowledged, and at this time they've indicated that they're not able to give us clarity.
And in what format did we receive notice of this freeze?
We have not received any official communication. We are monitoring the federal portal that we use to draw funds down. And so it is currently inoperable, and our grant is indicated as being suspended within that portal. So it is an active grant, should be operable at this time, and we do not have anything other than staff acknowledgement that that issue has been noted, and they will tell us when they can tell us something.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. March Madness, talk about the full court press, right?
Indeed.
Wow, well, good. Thank you for sticking with that, Mr. Adams. Appreciate it. Oh, Commissioner Buck, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I know that I was hoping under announcements we might have some report back on the flooding that occurred over the weekend, but if not today, maybe a report on a future date. It did keep me and several other of our staff quite busy over the weekend and was a significant event, even though it didn't elevate to an emergency declaration for us, thank goodness. But maybe an after-action report at some point would be great.
Definitely could do that.
And Chair, in addition to that, Chair, I wanted to just bring back, I believe there was some discussion last week of a letter of request for Willamette family. Back in January, the governor reached out to a number of substance use treatment providers requesting essentially letters indicating shovel-ready projects. So the governor allocated within her governor's recommended budget $90 million within OHA funds, general funds, looking for projects. And she challenged folk to bring projects together. So Willamette family here in Eugene has a $12 million project that they are requesting that we provide a letter of support for. So I've had an opportunity to engage with Willamette Family's executive director and understand the process. So this would, they have $2 million in hand to cover the land acquisition, and it would provide substance use, a 72 bed substance use facility focusing on men, which is a segment that has a pretty significant lag time. So I wanted to just bring this back in open session with the board to get this board's guidance on providing. So staff, we would like to provide this and submit this to a letter to the governor with the chair's signature, if you are all.
Let me add to that's a shovel-ready piece of land. There's not a lot of hoop jumps to go through. We approve this, it's ready to go if the funds are cut. Correct?
That is my understanding, Chair, yes.
Head nods from the board on that? Absolutely. Commissioner Farr, go ahead, please.
Well, more than a head nod, the governor's recommended budget is always wonderful if you agree with it. In this case, I agree. So you have my head nod most certainly. And beyond that, if there's anything else we can do to talk to the legislative delegation, et cetera, you're way on top of that, Steve. So thanks for bringing this to us.
Go ahead, Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you. Are there any concerns that the funds that they're seeking, basically the funds that the governor would have available to disperse for such a use may also be subject to some of the same challenges that we've just been hearing about with some of our funding issues?
Chair Lovell, Commissioner Trieger, these are state general fund dollars. So I believe these to be state of Oregon local funds without a federal tie.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Just take 2 minutes maybe before your goal of ending here, just to address the flooding that we had. Maybe I can tee this up, and then Commissioner Buck, and under Commissioner's announcements, you can talk, because a lot of the coordination events happen in the district that you represent. We did on Sunday have after several days of rain. I will note that we continue to have challenges with weather forecasting because of the lack of radar in our area. We really are a dead zone for weather forecasting, and so it creates, we saw this last year in the ice storm. It was very difficult to predict what had happened. Similarly, with the rain, it had predicted sort of light rain. It was really heavy. And so on Sunday, earlier parts of this last Sunday, we had some significant flooding events that started to take place, particularly in the Marcola and Mohawk area, as well as southern part of the county around Cottage Grove, many other parts of the county, but our coordination events happened largely in those areas. There was a level 1 evacuation that the sheriff declared in the Mohawk area, coordination around sheltering, particularly in Cottage Grove. So We did mobilization, the county emergency operation, and typically in these events, especially when it's a county-wide, wildfires, they tend to happen, in an area, and then there's intensive response that occurs in those areas. With a flooding event like this, you can have multiple communities that are affected. And so obviously Lane County's ability to provide all of the response efforts in those communities is limited, but our role largely is in coordinating and identifying what are the needs of those communities around sheltering or for sandbags and for other road clearance type needs. So we activated our emergency operations center early afternoon on Sunday. The sheriff's office, Lane County Emergency Management, our policy team, technology team, our PIO, many others were participated in that. Thanks to Commissioner Buck for communication and outreach with officials in those areas. So just thankfully, we got a reprieve yesterday and today from the rain. And so it has helped us sort of recover. We're going to see a few more days, it looks like, of continued rain over the next few days before the weather appears to improve as we head into the weekend and early next week. So we're continuing to monitor that. We did have a cooperators call on Sunday at 3 p.m., I believe, where we had, I don't know how many people, probably 100, close to 100 folks that participated in that. And those are really effective in bringing together the various agencies and jurisdictions to coordinate efforts, get on the same page. We had another cooperators call that happened yesterday. With various agencies. So some of the cleanup work is continuing, and I imagine Commissioner Buck will have more to say under announcements.
All right, before we recess for our 1:30 session back in Harris Hall, I need to read us into executive session. The Board of County Commissioners will now meet in one executive session. This session is to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602D, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive sessions for the purposes listed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are precluded from attending. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. Members of the news media are not allowed to tape, video, record, or otherwise record an executive session, and verbatim notes are prohibited. No decision may be made in an executive session. We will meet back in Harris Hall, as I said, at 1:30 for our afternoon session. We are recessed.